Hello, good evening, and welcome to Winners and Losers from the LFC Daytrippers. I'm Gav, and again this week it's Andy and Dicko bringing you the topics. Just to let people know, we will be talking about Firmino, par at Brighton, and then we're going to do a half an hour on Tony Bellew drawing lines on pitches and VAR. Okay, we're just going to throw it out there so you know what's going on. Where do we start? Andy, how are you anyway?
Oh, good, Gav. Yeah, you?
I'm good.
Just checking my notes here.
Your notes?
I do loads of notes.
Do
Make
you?
sure it's not last week's.
Yeah, make sure it's not last week. We go Salah.
We talking about we talked about hotels and dubs and all.
Hotels and what? We talked about that last week.
Yeah, on holiday.
Yeah.
Oh,
Spot the dub.
yeah, on holiday.
Yeah.
Can you spot a dub or can you spot a scout? So yeah.
Well, you're talking about manager being the first manager out the gap, and yeah, that was old news within about 12 hours, wasn't it? When Scott Parker got the bullet.
Well, Scott Parker talked himself out of that job. Like he knew what he was doing.
The pod was out of date within 20 fucking
About
hours.
4 minutes. We came off and it was like he's gone.
Yeah, all right.
But we know
42
it's going to be
bets down to Swanee for poor El Joe.
It's going to be in Albufeira, absolutely snapping. It's going to be Brendan Rodgers, isn't it? So all's not lost. All's not lost. Right, Dicko, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah. I don't know, I enjoyed it in a way, that derby at the weekend. We'll get into it soon, but I don't know, it was feisty enough, wasn't it?
I thought it was a good game of football. We were talking about it last night. It wasn't one of those nil-alls where you went, that was just dreadful from both teams and no one deserved to win. There was loads of chances.
Yeah.
Is it just I don't know, like, you know, being a top red and all sometimes, is it just too easy to say we were shit, you know, nowadays? Is it just a go-to for everybody? Because I didn't think we were that bad, you know what I mean? People were saying the usual, like, you know, we're leggy, look like we're burnt out already, but I actually thought they worked hard, you know.
I think we do look a bit tired, but I think, you know, the personnel we have in certain positions, especially midfield, is leaving us open. It is leaving us open where we usually pen teams in. They don't get out. We nick balls off them and we just terrify them into trying to play football. You know, they're terrified of playing football. Whereas the moment they're getting a bit of joy out of breaking against us and stuff like that. But play bad, we played okay.
Yeah,
we are okay. We chances.
I thought
they had a
won,
couple of chances.
You know?
We hit the post 3 times,
or the wood 3 times. Yeah.
And they had a good chance with Mope and stuff like that. But
and they hit the post as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was asking Shawnee last night, or Sean, the 3 lads around last night. And I was saying there's a small margins, and like someone come up in the chat and said, look at the XG and look. Now I'm not an XG fan because I think it's bollocks. Because you know it's not judged on the person that has the chance or where the chance is. It's a bit mental. And I've made the point before, if it's windy out, XG goes out the window because you have to take wind and other factors into consideration, and they don't with XG. So, but stats coming out is the amount of times Liverpool are getting balls in the box, getting chances, getting shots on target. They're right up there. So it probably is small margins.
Look,
it's players coming
things
back.
That's things like XG, like they're just part of the story. You know, watching a game, you'd never guess that we're having a, you know, double or treble amount of XGs or whatever the fuck you call them than the opposition. Or when you look at the stat there that Salah's created 24 chances this season, and you know the most a player has in Europe, but you know, watching the games, it doesn't really seem like that.
I think if he's creating them chances and we're winning games, right? I don't even think it goes as far as glossing over certain things. I think you just go, we won that game, we created a chance, we scored. But when we're not taking those chances, you go beyond chances. You stop looking and going, oh yeah, they were good chances we missed, but you start looking deeper and going, more about that when they broke and when they. So it's a knock-on effect. You know, I think we get players back and we're probably a bit more clinical in both boxes. Not massive percentages, but a little bit maybe in defence and probably even less of a percentage going forward. I think Liverpool could click, get better, win games, and you know, it could all fade away where you go, yeah, it wasn't a great start, but player A, B, and C are back and we're scoring and we're not conceding. And it's such a high level we're held to. So that's
And
just
what do you make of
The
the?
reality is we've got to up it, haven't we, for the next 6 league games, because they're tougher than the first. On paper, they're tougher than the first 6 games. So we can't really afford to stay even at the level we're at now. We're going to have to kick on. We're going to have to make the most of bodies coming back and having 5 strikers available and things like this. We're going to have to really be closer to our A game with some of the sides that we've got coming up, including Manchester City and those next 6 as well.
And I even think, like, if you look at Man City, I don't think they've played well this season. I think they've been fairly clinical in front of goal, i.e. Haaland, right?
Yeah.
Because we were talking about it last night. They don't even pass the ball to him. Like, they're just ignoring him until they get the ball near the box and then they give it to him. But if you actually look at them, like, they should have been 3-0 down against Palace, in my opinion. They could have lost at Newcastle. They could have actually lost that game the other day as well, despite dominating. From 50 to 65, like, they battered Villa, like, where they could have had 3 or 4. But if I'm a Man City fan coming away from that game at the weekend, I'm saying to myself, you know what? We didn't take our chances, and they got more second balls as the game went on for the last 20, 25. And our midfield wasn't as good as it should be, and our defence looked a bit rocky. And and that's. I don't know if Man City fans are saying that, but they probably are. They're probably looking at it in a very similar vein to us. It's just we hear more about us than City, obviously.
Time will tell whether he's making a difference. I mean, so far, City are kind of doing what they did last season. At times, they look a little bit ropey, at the beginning of last season. But they're putting teams away as well. I mean, is Haaland actually making the difference? They're scoring more goals in a 6-yard box. Like, I think he's scored more goals in a 6-yard box so far this season than he did the whole of last season, or any other player was able to last season. Sterling had 3 or 4 or something. But, like, it's just a different City we're seeing now. But is it a better City? What is he going to make a difference in the big games? I mean, that's where he's being brought in for, the big Champions League games, or the bigger games against.
We'll only see that starting this week, won't we?
Time will tell.
Yeah, it will. But like, look, it was a good game of football. I think it was a team in Everton that are trying to find themselves in a certain way, and I think they probably showed a little bit, in fairness to them, on Saturday morning or early Saturday afternoon. It's a team in us that aren't in form, and missing a few and stuff like that. But look, we all went on about 16 league games before this World Cup. I think it's 16, and we've played 6. So this next 10, you mentioned the next 6. I think the next 10 league games are huge. Liverpool realistically probably have to put, I would say, 25 points on the board out of the next 10 games.
And do you think what's happened so far this season? Like, people are pointing out different things about the formation and the tactics and the amount they're not running. Like, do you think that's by design, that Klopp has taken this bit of risk going into the busier schedule, that hopefully we can win these games with less effort, to save the legs, and maybe it's backfired a small bit that they've dropped far too many points than they'd hoped. I mean, it just seems like ordinary players are exposing us, and ordinary players are getting the runs on our defence, far more exposed than we normally would be. We're not defending as a unit. We're not attacking as a unit. It seems the pitch seems to be more stretched, and in which case there's more space in between the lines and in between players. Like, I don't know. It's by design. At the very beginning of the game, like the other day, that triangle between Elliott, Trent and Salah was really working, and then all of a sudden they weren't near each other for the rest of the game, until Firmino came on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's by design. I think players lost have been big, I think if you mix that in with form of other players, Robertson and Trent in particular, hasn't been great. And look, there's loads of different moving parts to it, you know. And it's okay to turn around and go, we've been poor, because I think we've been average, you know. And I don't really count that Bournemouth game because Liverpool didn't have to get out of second gear and won 9-0. You know what I mean? But the rest of it has been average. Have outrun, yeah, but we have a lot of the ball. But I kind of understand the outrun stuff and outwork stuff, because Liverpool, if they have 70% of the ball, in that 30% where they don't, they're all over people. They're swarming them. They're laying traps. Where at the moment we don't see, not even pressing. I'm talking about, you know, where they used to lay traps, where they'd say to Mane, you just come in a little bit and make that centre half passer into the middle of midfield, and then we'll eat him. You'll eat him alive. And we're not doing that. And maybe it's legs, maybe it's just players.
It can't be legs. Like it can't be tired. It can't be tiredness. I think it's more so like because they didn't have the amount of time to prepare and get the fitness into the legs, that by design they're not working as hard, you know, while they're working on other things in training, or get them through to the World Cup, or get through to the far side. It just seems strange that you would just decide, like the players have decided all of a sudden not to work as hard, like without the instruction of Klopp.
No,
and we're not playing to the strengths of the team. You know what I mean?
And it's mixed. It's mixed every week as to who's playing. But I said it last night. I think we're missing someone who controls things in midfield. I.e. Thiago, Mello might do that. I don't know, but
you never know.
Like Henderson doesn't control games. You know, Henderson works hard, doesn't control games. Thiago does, and we've gone from being mental to controlling. And it's hard to kind of, I think we tried to go a bit mental on Saturday with the two we put in midfield with Fabinho, but when you do that, like, you need so many players on form. You need your fullbacks on really good form to do that. You know, you need Fabinho to be all over it, and Fabinho can get left exposed when two 19-year-olds are just going mental going forward. But can we talk about one of the positives, Sandy? Can we talk about, we'll start with, you want to talk about, I think it was you. Was it you?
Yeah, Firmino.
Yeah, you want to talk about Bobby Firmino.
Yeah.
So, go on, talk to me.
Yeah, look, he's just my winner this week. Yeah, it must have been hard for him to take being dropped, you know, for that game. It was such a big game, and he was going into a form, but you don't hear him moan. You know, he never looks petulant over anything. You know, but just like he came on and made the difference and didn't make much of a fuss. I thought they improved when he came on. They looked a little bit more connected. But just looking at the wider picture, you know, he was nearly gone. Like there was talk he was going to Napoli, wasn't it?
Juventus.
And just I think recently in the last few games and then coming on against Everton, he's shown his value to the team. And, you know, he kind of knows his role in the squad. And if we want to use that transition word, that's becoming a bit of a buzzword, you know, to excuse the early, you know, the way that things have been happening at the start of the season. But if we are experiencing a transition from one generation of Klopp team, you know, to the next, you kind of need characters like Bobby, you know, and Milner, you know, to kind of bridge that gap before you become that next generation team, because they have been good leaders, you know, throughout the first generation. And like you're going to hope he's not going to need to be relied upon, you know, too often. But when you need him, he's not letting us down. You know, I think we're blessed to have him, and I'm no doubt he wouldn't want to be anywhere else in the world either, except at Liverpool. And I think his influence he has over the squad and the younger players is, you know, you can't buy that really. So, I mean, he's impressed me lately. I'm sure he's impressed most of the fans, and that's why he's my winner of the week.
Dicko, has he impressed you?
Yeah, he has. I mean, I was on here, you know, slating him really a few weeks back, saying, you know, he's essentially finished, you know, and we're starting to scratch my head a little bit about what his contribution is likely to be, especially as if you think of him as a kind of down the pecking order type of player. He's never really been that impactful when he's come off the bench generally. So it was good to actually see, you know, him coming off the bench on Saturday and making such a positive impact, obviously off the back of starting games and actually being able to make a positive contribution. I mean, he was very good against Newcastle. Obviously, got involved in a lot of the goals against Bournemouth, and it's easy to take that as an outlier, as a lot of that game is. But no, I mean, he's going to have a very important role. We know that we're going to get injuries. It's a natural process, and it's also obviously the impact of the World Cup in the middle of it all. But I think between what he's bringing on the pitch, and as Andy mentions there, around his positive influence, his role, and no doubt, on the training pitch every day, in the dressing room, just his overall positivity and his character. He's never. I don't think I can think of one, negative aspect. He obviously had one off the field problem much earlier on in his career, but you never hear anything negative about him. He's always there. He's always a constant, and he's a valuable squad player, which Klopp will definitely put a value on him as the season progresses. He does frustrate. There's games where he really frustrates. And funnily enough, the first game he sort of doesn't start at the weekend. You could see actually there was times there where really Darwin Núñez wasn't getting involved at all in the game on Saturday. I mean, it was probably. I watched the game with Andy, and we both went to say at the same time, like Núñez hasn't been involved at all. And I know, a bit like Haaland in a way, that's what we're going to see really from him in comparison to Bobby, who will obviously come a lot deeper and get involved in the play and almost sit, as we've seen on occasion, deeper than some of our midfielders. But no, look, I'm not going to get carried away, because he's going to be. I think we're only going to see him sparingly over the next while if everyone else is fit. I'm excited to see Jota come back and see what he can bring. Some bright sparks from him when he came on at the weekend. And to be honest with you, if all goes well, we won't be seeing an awful lot of Bobby. But it's good to know that we've got someone so dependable there who won't sulk by being on the bench maybe for 3 or 4 games in a row. Will come on if he's got to come on for the last 10, 15 minutes. He's going to work hard. So he's a great asset. And, I'm annoyed at myself a little bit for kind of saying he was finished the other week, because maybe that was a little bit of a hot take.
Look, I think you're going to see quite a bit of Firmino over the next 4 to 6 weeks. Because Jota is coming back, yeah, that's absolutely fair. But Jota's coming back from an injury that he's been out since, I want to say, June, right? He comes back at pre-season, and doesn't he get injured in training in pre-season? And we haven't really seen him since. So
reoccurrence, isn't it? And they're going to want to manage him as well. I mean, hamstring is something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're going to absolutely manage him. So
if it goes again, 6 weeks.
Yeah, and you're still looking at bedding Darwin Núñez in. He gets sent off in the second game. He misses 3. He's back now. It's going to take time with Darwin Núñez, right? I think the biggest thing is you need to get Salah and Diaz closer to him. I think they're way too wide, and they're leaving him exposed in the middle of the pitch where he's just on his own, 2 defenders, easily looking after him. And, he's really trying hard to make chances for himself. That one where it comes over his shoulder, he chests and hits the other day, if that goes in, you're going, like, wow. Do you know what I mean? And it could be like an absolute launch pad for him. But I think you need to get the 2 boys up front closer to him, because not only does it mean them 2 boys are closer to goal, but it means that when they're closer to him, centre-halves have more to think about. Do I go? Do I stay? Do I leave me full-back? And then, of course, if you have your full-backs on really good form, they're overloading as well. So their full-back then has to say, do I go? Do I stay? So we have to give teams more questions to answer. I don't think we've given them enough. Firmino, I think you'll see quite a bit of. I've been impressed with him. He gets goals against Bournemouth. He gets assists. And I wasn't surprised to see Núñez start the derby, because you have to manage Firmino as well. we've seen injuries over the last 18 months with Firmino where he's gone for 4 weeks, he's gone for 5 weeks. So, he's played an awful lot of football. He's probably played the most football of anyone in this squad over the last 5 years when you think of all the travelling he's done with Brazil for Copas and all sorts of stuff. So, look, he's a good asset to have. But I hope Jota comes back and hits the ground running. But I think he's a good option to have, especially with trying to nurse Jota back in and trying to help Núñez into this team. But if Jota in the next 4 weeks is fit and Núñez hits a couple of goals, I think you'll see less and less from Firmino. But that's no problem because he's still an option there. And someone said it in the chat, the variety you get from Jota, from Núñez and from Firmino, they're all really different. And it's a different. That's where you can ask more questions to teams when you bring someone different on, or you combine the two of them together, where you ask different questions, and that's where Liverpool can become a bit more unpredictable, I suppose, for other teams, and that's where we can probably create more chances. Well, we're creating loads as it is, I think, but create more clear-cut chances and open teams up and hurt them. And I think, listen, you can't go wrong with quality and plenty of it. And I don't know, would you offer him a new deal? Or probably that's the question to ask. And I know we're early in the season, but he's a year left. And do you offer him a new deal, yes or no?
Yeah, it was up in the air whether Milner would get one last season. I think a lot of people thought this was going to be last season was going to be his last season, and he gets another one. So I suppose it all depends on what happens between now and then and how well Núñez adapts into the team. I think right at the moment, no better boy to help Núñez integrate into the team. He's shown Núñez that he can contribute to the team without actually having to score goals. And my fear about Núñez is becomes a target man. And as you say, it's something different. Like, you just expect that, if Núñez come off the bench, it's all of a sudden they'll change the tactics and they're going to be launching balls into the box and trying to get him to bully defenders and win aerial challenges. But I'd like to see Núñez maybe playing a bit like Firmino and dropping deep and playing box to box, a little bit like Kane does, where you can pick the ball up in the middle of the park.
Núñez spent loads of time out wide for Benfica as well.
Yeah, and this is it. And I was saying a couple of weeks ago as well, we probably don't know exactly what we're going to get from Núñez. I think we're on the early signs is where we might be a bit frustrated for a while, and then, as you say, it's moments. I mean, if he chests that ball and whacks it over Pickford's head in a derby and scores a goal like that famous Torres goal against Blackburn, practically, if going back, all of a sudden he's sprung and everybody's talking about him. So he might just need one of those moments. But in the meantime, if you can learn from Bobby, and just having an influence over games, of a fairly selfless influence, and getting other players involved around him, because he does look like he's forcing it a little bit, and he has all the hallmarks of a young player like that. Has a lot to learn. I'm not sure what age is he, 20, 22?
Yeah, I think 22. We fall into a trap with him. I think we fall into a trap of looking at him going, he's 6 foot, whatever, and we need to launch balls in the box. I do, and as much as Haaland doesn't do anything in games, right? They're playing to his absolute strength. And they're making sure that the balls in are quality. If Liverpool play exactly as they did last season, and Núñez in the middle of the box, he'll get loads of goals. Yeah, loads of them. It's not like we don't create chances. He'll get loads of fucking goals, and maybe that's probably something you have to go back and look and go, let's just go back to the way we used to play. We played intricate football. We got the bylines and we whipped balls in, and I'm not talking about floating balls in. I'm talking about lashing balls across the box. We always done that, and the only thing you could throw at some of our players was, although Mane, Salah got great goal returns, and Firmino maybe a bit more, where you go, should have finished that. Yeah. Give him the opportunity to finish them and see if he can finish them. I think he'll be fine. Just
another thing I want to throw out there about Núñez, he's okay. He had the game where he threw the loaf and all that, and up to that point there was a lot of messing going on between him and Salah. Yeah, and then with the goal against Newcastle, you seen him standing up and saying "fuck you" to the Newcastle bench, and then in the Everton game, there was a few, the camera panned in to see what he's up to, having little spats. And then wasn't just after Cody's goal, he was having a discussion with him, and I seen a few people saying, "Oh, look at Núñez winding Cody up." Now I don't know where he was, because
No, I think
I
he
remember
just.
watching that live, and they were talking,
Yeah,
and they
I
were
think it
just.
was. I thought it was like, is he saying to him, are he going to check the screen? I thought like.
No, it was after at this stage the goal wasn't given, and he was like doing the square thing.
Yeah.
That as if the ref was to go and look. I don't know, but I hope that that's not what we're going to see from that every game. There's a little sideshow
Yeah.
where he's getting involved with the opposition. I think, and again going back to Firmino, you never see that out of him.
It didn't look like there was anything in that. Like, it wasn't like he
No,
was having a go
Cody
at
never
Cody.
reacted.
He's
Cody
just
never
gonna be
reacted. So
the reality is he's going to be under the microscope. People want him to fail on some sort of level. If it's not the fact that he's scoring goals, it'll be the fact that he can't keep his cool in games. So that's going to run for a few games. They were always going to look for something on Saturday, and it might continue for a few more games. But
The way I look
it's more of a distant memory. They'll concentrate on his goal record more than his
and so he should. Like,
Yeah.
he's playing against Liverpool. He has to score goals. Like, but that thing I seen, like, I didn't even notice it live. But when I looked back, I genuinely thought he just turned and went, to Cody. They've ruled it out because they've looked at the screen and must have ruled it out. And Cody kind of nearly says yeah to him. Yeah, and then heads off. Like, so.
yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think he was winding them up, but just I see a lot of people saying that's what was going on. Watching it live, I didn't think it was.
Yeah, but how many players talk to each other on a football pitch for over 90 minutes? And like you said, he's under the microscope. If he isn't sent off 3 games ago, we're never seeing that clip. Never. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hold on.
We're in showbiz, baby.
Let her run over a little bit there, to be honest with you. We're going to keep on the positives. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Because we want to leave the mad stuff to the end.
The mad stuff at the end where everyone can lose their head.
Dicko, you've picked Graham Potter.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
I don't recall him being in all of the winners and losers. Don't recall him ever being up as a winner. Don't know if I actually recall him being as a loser. To be fair to Brighton, they've always been kind of that middle of the road team that they win their fair share of games, but they actually. If you think back to last season, they were losing the fair share of games that they actually deserved better out of. They've lacked that kind of clinical side of their game in terms of the finishing, taking advantage of chances, scoring when they were clearly in the ascendancy against often teams better than them, teams that should have been beaten Brighton handily. But to be fair to him, obviously he came in to Brighton from a kind of a less sort of familiar route into Brighton, and he's been in some ways he's been a bit of a slow burner. But I think everything that he's kind of put together there and formulated, it seems to be really starting to click now. Obviously, 6 games in, and they're up there. I think they're in 4th, aren't they?
14 points, I think.
Yeah, and it's not 4 wins, a draw, and a defeat, and it's not that's a fair reflection of what they've been over the first 6 weeks. He's a fairly likable guy. He doesn't. He's of all the managers in the league, he doesn't seem to get too high, doesn't seem to get too low in terms of, the week to week. He seemed to take a lot of those defeats on the chin, even though, he could have been a bit of sour grapes in there. And some decent talents up front. I mean, I know they let Mopé go to Everton, but, they've still got Trossard, seems to be getting a tune out of Welbeck. Your man McAllister, adding goals to his game. It was a really unfortunate goal that got disallowed. Actually, it was probably the best of the bunch that got disallowed. But no, he's they're a likable sides. They're easy on the eye. They seem to be building things in the right direction. Don't seem to have let a big player go into Chelsea sort of rock the boat too much, even though, he was probably one of their best players. And, I mean, we've got them coming up in our next 6 games. think that's one to be fearful of when they come to Anfield. Going to definitely have to be on our A game that day. I think they're going to be playing Man City in the next 6 games as well. So we'll get to see what they're about. We'll get to see if they continue that killer instinct against the big boys sort of thing. But I think what we've seen so far out of them is some good stuff, and so I think he's worth putting up there at a time when other managers are starting to kind of feel the heat. He definitely seems to be on an upward curve.
Andy, do you like him?
I do like him. He's definitely overachieving at Brighton. He's getting like the disposable word now. Everyone's talking about getting a tune out of players. he's definitely getting a tune out of players that you don't really recognise as like established Premier League players that are recognised. But he's doing a job there. And was it last season we went and watched him against Liverpool and it was 2-2? That was last season, wasn't it? At Anfield.
Yeah.
And causes huge amount of problems. Everybody that plays that
looked appalling in the first 25. We were cruising, and then
but it's not show like a really good sign of the team to turn things around. But they play that 3 at the back thing with Dunk in the middle and then the wing backs, and we find it really hard to play against teams that do that and do it as well as Brighton do. And I think Bazuma played that day, didn't he? We worked really hard midfield. He's gone, and they just look like a team you just don't want to play home or away. I mean, you dread the thoughts of going to that fixture because it's not a guaranteed 3 points. Even though for whatever reason in your head you're thinking Brighton, we should be beating them. Yeah. But they cause huge trouble for bigger teams. When he came in, he replaced Houghton, and I loved Houghton, for his days with Ireland. And when he loses his job and Potter comes in, you're like, what? Like, surely if you're going to sack Houghton, you're bringing in sort of a recognised Premier League manager to bring Brighton onto the next level. But since then, 3 or 4 seasons, he's brought them on. They seem to be really, he's embedded his style, and I don't really know much about what he did before. I think he was in Sweden for a while, and I mean, that's really the way to sort of start your managerial career, like a little bit out under the radar in a different country. And the expectations aren't as large. Then maybe something that Gerrard should have done, but he's working his way up through the ranks. There's no doubt he's going to get a big job at some stage, with how he's doing at Brighton and the overachieving.
I like him a lot as well. I think Olivier says there they've lost Ben White, Cucurella, Basuma and Mopé in the last 2 seasons. He reckons this manager is mint. I think his forward planning is good. I think he knows Basuma won't be there, and Caicedo, I think was brought in, went out on loan, came back and was there the second half of last season, and he probably knew, I need to bet this fella in because Basuma won't be here. He trusts what he's doing. I don't think Brighton have changed what they've been really about over the last 3 or 4 years. The thing you would throw them is that, like, why haven't they got an absolute goal scorer in there? Because if they did, where could they go? But he stuck to his guns, like you say. Welbeck's playing quite well for them. Trossard's playing well, Gross, McAllister. There's a lot of players in that team where you go, they are playing so fucking well. But when you watch them playing individually, you would think, would he go there? Would he get in this team? You'd have your doubts, but collectively, they all know what they're doing, and they have so much trust from them. He has to instill so much trust in them, because no matter what way they're playing, they were 1-0 down. Were they 1-0 down the other day? And
first minute.
1-0 down. Then they went 2-1 up. Then they went 2-1 up. Then they got pegged back, and you could see. I watched a bit of it at 2-2. I actually went away from it. Then they scored a couple of goals, but you could see they weren't panicking, and they just kept doing what they were doing. They trusted themselves. The manager obviously trusted them, and you know what? He has lost a lot of players. I think White was 50 million, Cucurella around the same, Basuma. So you're probably looking at 130 odd million there. You have 40 million in them 4 players alone, and he hasn't invested anywhere close to that, I don't think, back in. But it's just, I think he's just set up perfectly there. Not only the players he has, I think the staff around him, the club themselves, they know they're going to lose. Probably Caicedo at one stage, maybe even Trossard. They might lose a centre back. They might use a goalkeeper. They know that's going to happen. but they're always prepared for it. They know where they stand, and I don't mean that to be bad on Brighton, but they know where their level is with regards to maybe 8-10 teams in that league where they've more money than them. There's more prestige about them. They might lose players to that, and they're not trying to. Not that they're not trying to better themselves, but they know where they are. You know, they know if Liverpool come for Caicedo for 50, 60 million, they're going to have to sell him because the player will turn around and go, listen, you have to let me go. You know, the sort of way. And, you know, the only thing I'd say about him is, and it's not about his managerial style or anything like that, I think he's excellent. He needs, and someone said it in the chat, and I agree, whatever job comes up for him, because it will do in the next year where he'll be heavily linked. He's the sort now, I think, where Brendan Rodgers used to be linked with Spurs and Arsenal and stuff. I think when this stuff comes up again, I think Potter will be the name on everyone's lips.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he needs to make the right decision for him. I think what will be huge for him is the structure at whatever club he goes to, because it looks like he needs to be given loads of trust and time and stuff like that. And you don't really get that at the top clubs. But I don't know what jobs will come up from, because I think Leicester will be looking for a manager, and I think Villa will be looking for a manager, and I wouldn't go near either of them as Graham Potter. I don't
not
benefit
compared to where he is now and what he's kind of built essentially, and the fact that he's got such a good thing going, the goodwill of, I'm sure, the support down there. The place seemed to be, the atmosphere seemed to be pretty electric down there. So yeah, you wouldn't want to come into a kind of a sort of a stale, atmosphere, fan base, dressing room. I think if he's gonna, if he wants to keep his stock rising, he's better off staying where he is for another.
Like Jono asked there what big job is coming up. No, that's what I mean. I don't think they are, because I think this is probably the most settled you've seen the top six with regards to managers. Arsenal definitely, Spurs, Liverpool, United, Chelsea. You don't know. It could go either way, but maybe Chelsea is the one there where you go, there might be something in the pipeline in the next 6 months. But other than that, if I'm Graham Potter, I'm looking around going, I'm not doing Leicester and I'm not doing Villa. Just not. Because a lot of the stuff Leicester seems to be, are the owners interested? And the thing at Villa is you will be backed. But they've kind of lost patience with Gerrard fairly quick. This isn't a recent thing. I think they lost patience with Gerrard towards the back end of last season. So, but overall, I think Potter is excellent, and I just like watching Brighton play. I think that it's not like they're rigid and he gets results in a Sean Dyche sort of way. He gets results by playing good football.
Oh no, they definitely moved the ball.
Just a minute ago, but I'll ask both of you: where would you see him in the next 2 or 3 years? Where do you think it really suit him, Andy?
Yeah, like you mentioned, Chelsea there is probably the more likely, because they've had a poor enough start, but then they're throwing money at the manager, so I can't imagine. I wouldn't like to see him going there. As you say, it's massive for him. What happens next? Does he stay at Brighton for a few more years? I know I'm going a really long way about answering your question here, but like Laura was saying in the chat there, he was 7.5 years in Sweden. So why doesn't he? He's still very young. I mean,
he is. Yeah.
What is he? 45 or something like that. What harm would there be staying at Brighton for 3 or 4 more years? Or do 10 years there and see what happens then. But I mean, you'd hate to see him get ruined by going to Chelsea and then, he never gets another big job again. I think somewhere like Spurs would probably really suit him.
Yeah, I think he's probably, the stars might align for him, different to how the stars didn't really align for Rodgers. In terms of...
Rodgers tried to rearrange the stars by telling clubs he wanted to go there.
Style, isn't it? Yeah. I think the stars might align for him. I think, whether it be Conte or Arteta to go first in 2 or 3 years' time, I think that might be a natural kind of progression for him. But I also wouldn't rule out him becoming the number one target for England when Southgate runs his course.
I think he'd be mad to go near it.
Of course he'd be mad. But he's an Englishman, and it might just stir him to go there, because he might think, well, I might never get the opportunity again.
Could he be in the run? And I'm just asking this, and I know the time has gone by, and we'll play the Dunphy clip in a minute. But could he be in line if you see him and at this trajectory? And I'm not even saying leave Brighton, but could he be a possibility? Would you see him as a Liverpool manager? Would you? would you see him? Would you trust him as a Liverpool manager? I know you really like him, but I'm going to ask that big question because, 3-4 years time down the road, if he continues doing what he's doing, is he in with a shout for big jobs?
Potentially. I mean, look, depends what he does over the next 2 to 3 years. I mean, he's got to continue that development of players, and he's also got to. I think he's probably from a track record point of view. He's got a. I know he's already been in. I think it was the Europa, wasn't it? Didn't they go on? They got a result at Arsenal, didn't he? I think it was one of the things that sprung them to prominence. If memory serves me right, a few years ago when he was managing that Swedish team, he's got to try and get Brighton into Europe and try and play some at least Europa League football or whatever. I think it's too early to make that call, but just like I was saying before, with stars aligning, who knows? He might be. The stars might align for him to take, one of the biggest jobs in England, whether that be Liverpool or someone else, but certainly a top four.
You have to, just the one thing about it, you have to see someone manage the big personalities, the big stars first to see how he copes.
Kevin Sullivan says he'd need European experience in his opinion. Yeah,
there's so much needs to happen first. I mean, look, anything's possible in football, but you just see when even going back to when Houllier came in, like, he'd such a good reputation across Europe. He was able to track names. Rafa and Klopp. I mean, Potter comes in. Does he really have that network across Europe?
That's what Subdog says. He says, who can he attract with him at the helm?
Yeah, and then
that's a fair question.
Once they come in, I suppose it's like that, and we're trying to predict the future here, and it's all hypothetical, but you can't rule that. He's definitely one of the better up and coming English managers anyway, and so much more likeable than most.
Well, look, I'm sure we'll keep an eye on Potter as the season goes on. I have to do some ads. People don't like ads, but I have to do
showbiz first.
What?
The showbiz first.
Oh, Jesus, yes, sorry.
We're in showbiz, baby.
Okay. Sorry,
just for Phil, because I've seen Phil in on the
listen, Phil tells you he's fucking busy and he's not. He's in the fucking chat talking.
Yeah, no. Fuck Phil. If you see him still there, kick him out. He's
out. Fucking no. I'm up to me eyes, lads. Piss off. IP Vanish is a VPN service that you can use on your tablet, your phone. You can use it on your Fire Stick, your laptop, your desktop. Protects your data, protects you, your location, your passwords, all that sort of thing. Look, it's rated 4.6 out of 5 on Trustpilot. Can be used on these multiple devices. A really good deal from IP Vanish. If you follow our link, it gets you a VPN for a year for around $38, which is fucking next to nothing when you look at the prices of some of them. If you go to ipvanish.com/daytrippers, you can avail of that offer. And the link is in the description. Second one is Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus are streaming every Champions League game this season. All the goals, all the games, all 90 minutes extra time, whatever it comes to between now and I don't know when they're playing the fucking final. It could be next August, the way this season is going, but Paramount Plus have it all. If you go to Paramount Plus, you can sign up and get every Champions League game streamed this season. It's $10 a month. Someone told us in the chat the other day, so go and check them out. Phil Casey wants us to ask the peeps for Trippers Chats questions. Phil is, of course, in charge of the Trippers Chat show. That is going to become a full show where we're going to record it. We're going to edit it heavily, and then we're going to edit the bollocks out of it, and then we're going to send it out as a show. He says it's next Tuesday, so in the next week or so, we will get try some. It's not football related; it's just random stuff. So I don't know. It could be Andy doing a fucking demonstration as to how far the toast flies when it comes out of a smeg toaster. But they are your ads now. I'm not putting the timer up on the screen, but I am going to put it at around 25 to 30 minutes, right? Because, first of all, Andy wanted Tony Bellew as his loser because he was drawing lines on the internet, right? And Dicko wanted VAR as loser. Dicko, I'll come to you first. and we can both talk about whatever you want. You can go into whatever you want, right?
I think we should talk about Bellew first.
Well, okay, Andy, let's talk about Bellew first, right? And in fairness, I know I've seen the tweet you're talking about. It's not only him. It's just the fact that it was.
No, it's not only him. It's let's just say less high profile people have always done this stupid lines, and now all of a sudden you have somebody who's got a reach.
Yeah, but on top of Bellew, Andy, it's a horrendous weekend for VAR.
Are we talking about Bellew or
well, either? You can go into either.
No, we'll be talking about VAR in a minute. No, it's not. It's a horrendous weekend for officials. I mean, there's nothing wrong with VAR.
Yeah.
VAR works, and it works everywhere except in England. Now, I just want to talk about Bellew. With his imaginary lines that he drew on his phone to make Cody onside. And actually, Cody himself could have made it the loser this week. I always thought he was a big red. Well, my God, he celebrated like that for a fake goal. How we didn't know he might be offside. Like, you never even looked at the lines and you just got caught up in the moment and celebrated like a lunatic. But anyway, Bellew's outdone him. He's whether you like VAR or you don't, that's your own business, right? But at least try and understand our angles, our perspective before you start talking about it and complaining. But poor Tony doesn't even know where the offside line starts. He draws his fake line from Milner's foot, but the ball was more advanced, so he could have made Cody even more onside with the silly lines. But instead he drew it from the foot,
through the foot.
It was just mad looking, and like for all the people that like drawing lines, you're going up against millions of euro research, development, and implementation of technology that works, right? 100% works. What you see is true. What you see on your phone or your angle from Sky Sports or whatever you're trying to do is not accurate. Just accept it. It's not accurate. No matter what you do with your phone or no matter what you think is somewhere they're standing, the technology is 100% correct, and they were developing it for years. So just accept it. You know what I mean? And if you think that your Nokia is better than that, you're mistaken. But Bellew, for me, look, I don't know. He likes attention seeking on the internet. He seems to be always putting it up to people with stupid shite. He's just a big bungalow head, and his nothing upstairs. So he just his lines.
I've never noticed Tony Bellew online before Saturday.
Oh no, he's always like.
Or maybe I just don't follow him, and it was just the first time I've seen something retweeted onto my timeline because I've never noticed him.
Yeah, he's the type of fella who tells your man Joshua that he outboxed your man, the Ukrainian, in the So that's the type of muppet you're dealing with, and he's now drawing lines saying that Cody was onside. Like it's just so stupid. I think I don't know how true it is, but seeing him get out of his car to confront a whole load of Liverpool fans that were singing songs at him. The lines drawn. If you want to, mate, we can talk about Bellew, or we can talk about people that draw lines, and then we can talk.
No, like I was kind of going because it's not only Bellew that's drawing lines. Like there's loads of people. I've seen like a mad grid and all today, like being moved around, and it was all very snazzy. And then there's another guy having measurements and stuff, which was really good as well. But Dicko, Andy makes a point there, right? People with reach doing this sort of thing is a bit mad, isn't it? Like, why not? Like, my whole thing about it is, and I'm not a fan of VAR. I've fucking said it from I don't know how long, right? And it just keeps compounding itself. And Andy makes a good point. It's not VAR, it's official. So yeah, maybe I'm saying it wrong, but like, why don't people just take a fucking picture of their telly when the lines from this technology comes up on it, and then try and make an argument around it? Like, what is in it for people to go, no, do you know what? I'm going to stop it there at this angle and I'm going to draw my own lines. I don't give a fuck what Sky have done or whoever's showing the game, I'm just going to fucking start drawing lines here. It's like remember the old joke you used to have where you go, no, he's clearly onside. You draw a line and you draw a big circle around the fella and then draw the line straight and go, look, he's clearly onside. Like, it's nearly like the reverse of that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's gone to a new level now. Like the multiple sort of line drawers that are out there, including obviously people of prominence like Tony Bellew. It's taken things to another stage, isn't it? In a serious way, all it's doing is trying to undermine, as Andy says, the technology that's there. You can moan and you can feel frustrated. I think we've had good reason to feel frustrated with the Rashford one at Old Trafford not that long ago. I actually don't think I think it's almost a classic. It's almost like the players on the pitch. I don't think we're vocal enough sometimes. We certainly don't go to the extremes that other fan bases seem to go to cry about a decision that's never going to get overturned. Because it's done and dusted. But they continue to kind of perpetuate this kind of false narratives around, goals that should have stood, when, let's face it, we see multiple angles and, even on Saturday, the initial thought was it might be offside. The first angle looked well offside. Then they showed a second angle. Then you were second guessing yourself because you weren't quite sure whether it was offside.
But then they showed one directly in line what was going on, and it's like.
And then, as a Liverpool fan, you're assured that this is going to be given as offside because that's the definitive angle sort of thing. Yeah. I mean, Bellew's picture has got if you look at what the actual lines on the pitch. I mean, I've been to Goodison Park a few times. I don't remember there being a 20% incline on that pitch because that's essentially what he's representing in that. It's 20% incline up to the Gladys Street end. I mean, it's ridiculous, really. But I'm sure there was an element of it done out there, like a lot of things on Twitter,
just to wind people up,
get a reaction, to kind of to try and get a bit of this sympathy going that actually Everton were kind of robbed of 3 points and they've only come away with a draw and all that.
Because when I was watching it, I'm terrible. I can't remember yesterday. When I'm watching the goal goes in, I actually didn't think offside. Honestly, I didn't. I thought he was just
in the
there
back of
on the
my
spot.
mind. Just where he was.
Yeah, I know, but like it goes cross goal and kind of think, fuck, he's got in there. And like you said, they show one angle and you're kind of going miles off. Like, you're right. And then they show a second one, you're kind of going, But then they actually show him and I don't know why they don't pull it up on screen first, where it's literally across the line of what's going on. And you're looking going, right, well, if he's going by this, if he's going to put a line on, whether it's Milner's foot or Van Dijk or wherever it is, right? Like, your man's knee, his shoulder, everything is over. So you're kind of going, yeah, it's offside. And when the lines flash up, you go, yeah, it is offside. And I think sometimes, you're talking about the Rashford one, and I think sometimes you can change your view so quick because if it's against you, you go, that shouldn't have stood. Whereas you score, you kind of go, oh well, hold on a minute. You kind of do make an argument because you want Liverpool to get the better of each situation. But I think you kind of have to come to the conclusion that, like Andy said, and it's not easy for me to say this because I fucking hate VAR, right? But you have to come to the conclusion where you say to yourself, listen, these lines are being drawn. They're being drawn with millions of pounds probably worth of equipment where they're literally bringing that line up. They've explained that they're given that little margin of error, thickness of lines, all that sort of stuff, or whatever it might be, and you just have to take it. But when you see someone where they're clearly over this line, like, I don't know where you go with it, but it brings us on then to the whole fucking stuff that went on the weekend. Now, I'm going to hold my hand up. I haven't seen the Newcastle one, right? Okay? Because I had enough when I heard Newcastle were booing about time wasting by Palace fan or player. That'll do me for the weekend. That's enough Newcastle, and I fucked off. But I've seen the Jarrod Bowen with at Chelsea.
Yeah.
The Coutinho one is horrendous.
Yeah.
But
all officials.
Yeah, all officials. But
that VAR is getting the bad press over.
Yeah, It's all being lumped into the one bucket essentially, VAR.
Because it's procedural stuff again for me. It's just procedure, and they just won't stick to a certain procedure. Like, I'll let you go out and talk about what you want now, but the Coutinho one for me, right? We've seen so many times a player standing 5 yards offside, right?
Yeah.
Ball gets played over the top. He runs after it.
Yeah.
Nobody does anything, right? The ball goes, he gets it, puts it in the box, someone taps it in the net, and the fucking flag goes up, right? We've seen that. We've seen it so many times, right? And then Coutinho's one. He has her up like a light. And he's blown like a light. Now, why... If they're going to do something like that, right? Why can't he just say, just let it play on, just let it go out, go dead, and then we'll have a look at it, and we'll bring it back and we'll play it from there, no problem. But that Coutinho the other day, I thought to myself, why is his flag up so? Do not flag and do not blow that whistle. Let that ball land in the keeper's hands and we play. Hit the net and we look at it. Go out for a corner and we look for it. Doesn't matter. But it just seems to me that 1 week they're standing, running along, going, he's offside, but I'm not putting that flag up. Fuck it.
Yeah.
And they're actually putting their flag up in this situation too quick on a tight situation when they have technology to back them up. But in the ones where it's fucking clear as day, they're waiting for the technology to kick in and tell them when they put the flag up, fucking, the ball's travel 50, 60 yards. I just think it's horrendous stuff. And Dicko, like, you look at, I didn't see the Newcastle one, so you'll have to explain to me, but you look at that one on Bowen. He's running in on the ball, he's trying to get to the keeper, gets there first, knocks it out. Like, how the fuck are you giving that up? Like, it just bemuses me, Dicko. It's just, I think they're just drawing straws in this fucking van they're in and going, goal, fucking, foul, whatever, and they're just going, yeah, it's a foul, yeah, it doesn't matter. Sure, we just fucking get Dermot Gallagher to take the fucking, go on Sky and try protect us on Monday morning. It's mental, Dicko.
Yeah, it is, as you say, the ones that really have stuck out this weekend and kind of allowed other stuff to be lumped on top of it, the offsides and whatnot, the borderline offsides are really the ones which have involved, the referees themselves or the VAR official. I think the worst of them all was definitely the Chelsea one. I think basically, Bowen is essentially kind of skipping over Mendy as he's going in, and Mendy makes an absolute meal of it because it's kind of an act of desperation, really. It's the only thing that's going to prevent that being a last minute equaliser and Chelsea dropping 2 points. And between the referee and the VAR official, they've been completely sucked in. I thought the Newcastle one, again, it's down to interpretation. It comes down to the referee and the VAR making a decision. I could actually see why that got disallowed, to be honest with you. I mean, he did go barreling in to the goalkeeper, and obviously then it's a weird one because then it just goes in off the Palace defender, but it is fairly reckless from Willock. He does go absolutely barreling into the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper's stretching out with his fist to go to punch the ball. Whether he got to the ball is debatable, but I can see why that was given as a foul, to be honest with you. The United one, that was a decision that could have gone either way. Again, it wasn't given. The foul wasn't given in actual play. We seen a similar thing a few years ago with Origi being fouled and then United going the other way and scoring. And, they were both fouls at the end of the day. The infuriating thing is, we don't get decisions. It's not just about Liverpool.
Sam Tandy says the Eriksen foul was one that confused me. Hendo gets fouled versus Fulham for their first goal, and we got told the VAR won't go all the way back to check for fouls before goals, etc. It needs to be consistent. And Tom Boland says, not trying to be an advocate for the refs, right? But this is interesting. But the FA keep changing the rules every season, every year. These lads have to adjust, hoping VAR will help them out. But because these lads are asleep, but they're adjusting the rules every season because they keep making mistake after mistake after mistake, right? And then they go, oh, do you know what we'll adjust this a little bit and this might help. And then they just continue to fucking do it wrong anyway.
Yeah, it's actually been out the news, out of the highlights, I suppose, of most week. I mean, this is the sixth week of Premier League games, and there's not been an awful lot. It just seemed to all happen in the same week. Just back on I know it's a bit off topic in a way, but just back to the United, the goal being disallowed. My God, if only we could protest as much as Man United are able to protest, and particularly Bruno Fernandes. I mean, he is constantly in the referee's face, and I think that has to have an influence as well. So, if there's anything to be learned there, we need to be a little bit more vocal about some of our protests. But the offside one, the Coutinho one is the most frustrating, really, because of what happens then afterwards. Obviously, he bangs one in pretty much straight away, and Virgil van Dijk in particular, you see him every game get frustrated at least on three or four occasions where the flag should have gone up. He's given the flag either does go up or the linesman gives him the signal, and it absolutely pisses them off like nothing else. That these flags stay down, and
this is what I'm saying.
In on it, what I mean?
If it's a tight decision, keep your flag down. The technology will back you, right? Or it'll sort it out for you. If it's a clear as fucking day decision, i.e. he's 3 yards offside, put your flag up. They're doing the opposite. They're doing the opposite. Do you know what I mean? They're actually letting things go when it's clear as day, and they're throwing flags up when it's tight. It makes no fucking sense. It absolutely makes no sense to me. And listen, VAR works in Europe. It works everywhere, other places in the world. Referees buy into it. They know how it works, and everyone knows in the Champions League. When you see something in the Champions League, and you go, you won't give that because we know how it kind of works. Whereas in England, it's literally like fucking putting it's like bingo. Just put your hand in the bag, pick out the next ticket, and see what it says. Andy, you've been a long time advocate of VAR, and I agree with you. Like the officials, it's just. I don't think it's a relationship that can work. These officials and this technology, it just simply can't, because Dermot Gallagher is on Sky every fucking Monday making an absolute fucking idiot of himself, let's be honest about it, while trying to protect mates, current mates, former work mates, wherever it might be. And it doesn't take much for people to look and go, you've just got that completely wrong, and they're apologising week on week.
Is the ref that does BT is a little bit more honest, I think. I'm trying to, J.R. Cal, was it that was saying, transparency needed, the audio should be broadcast. And, I said that a couple of seasons ago when VAR came in, and I think I gave football fans, the ignorant ones, too much credit because they're the most noisy. I actually think the more transparency, the more trouble it's going to cause, because people that are criticising VAR or what's happening in the rules with what goes on aren't even prepared to learn the rules themselves or to learn what's happening with VAR. And to give you a good example of that is when we conceded the goal, Rashford was marginally, he was offside last season, he was onside this season because of that margin of error. And then Isaac off Newcastle scores, and it's a very similar situation, but he's offside, he's more offside because the lines don't meet. So why are people losing their shit if they can't be bothered to check why first? Read up on it first, check out why those two instances are different, and then moan if you have something to moan about. But the fact of the matter was Rashford was less offside, right? And I know that sounds stupid and everything, but it's a solution that worked in Europe somewhere. I think it was in the Dutch league or something first, and it is good because
it's basically widening the lines, and if the lines meet, is that right? Am I right in saying the lines meet, you're on? If they don't meet, you're off. Yeah.
So basically, what's happening is the biggest complaint is when goals are disallowed, right? So they've said let's give the benefit of the doubt to the attacker. So it means then that if there's any dispute over,
not the benefit of the doubt, because that means that they're not doing it properly. There's no
the benefit of the
doubt. They've given them more leeway as to what it is.
No, there is. Listen for a second. The benefit of doubt in the sense that people have pointed out inconsistencies of where the fellas in the VAR studio are plotting their lines, right? So someone was saying that it's supposed to be at the bottom of the sleeve, but then depending on what the angle, so it means that the plot can be marginally different every week, right? So what they've said was, right, so even if there's a slight discrepancy, they've allowed that now in favour of the attacker. So that's why Marcus Rashford was onside, and that's what people want to see. They don't want to see goals ruled out when there's a slight possibility that the referee could have put the point of the offside in the wrong position. So now and we've seen it's happened. We've seen offside goals going allowed because they're just marginally offside, but because the lines are overlapping, they've said, right, benefit out the attacker. So essentially what they're saying is, because of the margin of error that are in the VAR guys, they're saying that player is level. They're giving them the benefit of the doubt for the VAR official.
I've seen people mention like their shadows and all. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. So sometimes what happens is it's covered and they haven't, of all the angles they look at, it's covered where they believe, so they have to use probability. Yeah. And then they just factor in things like shadows and, you know, where the person's arm or foot or shin or hip or whatever is likely to be. I mean, it's better than relying on a linesman who has to see it in real time. And we've seen goals for years not being allowed or being way offside being allowed. That's not fair. And like a lot of people's solutions, I just don't like VAR. I don't like it. They haven't bothered trying to understand it. And the cop-out is the referees are making poor decisions anyway. So let's just bin it off and let's just let the referees away with murder. So there has to be some sort of a revolution here where referees, the standard is up. The shit referees are fucked out. They bring in referees from Europe or whatever. One of my mates, look, I don't watch European football much, but one of them was saying, like, he watches a lot of Spanish football, and he was saying that, like, these things just don't happen. Like, once every few games, or a few weeks, is there something a little bit controversial where the referee has gone back and they take ages deliberating over a push or a foul, or so it just doesn't happen. It's just the standard of refereeing and the the way they protect each other. This union they have is horrific.
Yeah, but that's why that's why the call is there for transparency, because I agree with Jer Cahill. I would have them mic'd up, right? And the reason being is that I don't want to wait for Dermot Gallagher on Monday, right? Okay, or if I'm in that ground, I don't want to fucking know what Dermot Gallagher thinks. I want to fucking know now what's going on, right? And the thing is, Andy, the transparency makes them explain themselves to each other, and you can hear what's going on. Because when that happens, say, against the decision against West Ham, Newcastle, Aston Villa, wherever it might be, right? They have hours and hours to prepare themselves, right? They can get their story straight. They can talk to each other. They can do that, right? I'm not asking, like, they just need to. We need to know what's going on. And listen, I get all the lines and overlapping, and the level of fucking that might be off here, there, and everywhere. I get all that, but the likes of decisions where you go, red is is it a high bar? This fucking bullshit. Just mic them up, and all this stuff where they go, oh well, you might hear people cursing. Tell them to fuck off. Tell Bruno Fernandes to fuck off away from you. And if he doesn't, I'm just going to start handing out cards, and it'll stop. It's a bit like the show pulling stuff in the box years ago. Right, we all shit ourselves because Martin Skirtle played for us at the time. We're like, this cunt's never going to see out a game again. But just, you see, the thing is, the problem here is that they don't follow their own protocol. In this, and what I mean by that is, 1 week it's one thing and 1 week it's the next, and we know nothing about what they're fucking doing because we have to wait till Monday, and they send out a thing going, oh, we might actually be in wrong there, and then there's ex-referees not being honest. I'm going to be honest. They're not being honest in what they're saying. And Gav, I can't see the issue, Andy. I just cannot see the issue.
I honestly can. Because a lot of people watching football don't understand the rules. They won't accept that the conversation going on between referees is in line with the rules of the game. and they won't. They'll what they'll do is they'll criticize the referee over a rule. But I mean, the rule is there, and the referee is, and then as well, the referees, they're not TV presenters. I mean, some of them may not be great communicators. They may not be like. I just don't think it's fair. To if I'm honest, I'd love to hear what some of the conversation that goes on, but in something like rugby, it's been around for a long time. I think the rules or the laws of the game, as they call them, are a little bit more black and white. A lot of the rules in football, as we know it now, are a little bit grey, and I don't know whether it serves much purpose to mic them up. I think it becomes a bit more of a circus. There's nothing worse than modern football now that the product is what goes on around the game now, and the football has become less important. The more important things nowadays is transfers and what players are doing and saying to each other, what's happening, what are the managers saying, and what are the refs are doing, and what the assholes in the studios are doing and saying.
Yeah, but Andy,
the more you like add to this, like outside of the football, I think it becomes a bit more of a.
But I think you're reducing
a circus.
I think you're reducing the whole circus of it, because if you're watching a game, right, and let's take Van Dijk on Onana, wasn't it, the other day, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a big thing over this, right? I think you should have got sent off. Right? That's what I think. For the reason being is he goes in stud showing and he's fairly high. I think he should. I think he should, yeah, because of the way he goes in, straight legged, studs up, he's in, and that's my opinion, right? But what I'm saying is, there's a whole thing around that where we're all going, should he not? It's a high impact. All I'm saying is, if that comes up and a referee wants to review it, he's mic'd up. He goes on and he says, "What do you think? Let me have a look at it." Yeah, there's a bit of contact there. Is he a little bit high? Do you know what? He might be a touch high, but I don't think there's enough force in it. Look, this is what I'm going to... And then they know what's going on. Instead of this circus for 48 hours about this tackle, and then they put someone on Sky or BT or wherever it might be, and then they come up and go, and they start saying high bar, low bar, fucking all this shit, right? And then there's another 2 days of it. And then just stop her at source. And I promise you, Andy, the reason they're not, in my opinion, the reason they are not mic'd up is because they cannot pass the buck when they're mic'd up.
Yeah,
they
look,
cannot
come
pass
here.
it on.
Right, no, I totally understand. Sean is saying it in the comments as well that that they be exposed further, and he's dead right. They will be exposed further, and it was the incident John Moss at Anfield a few years ago against Spurs, was it? Mm-hmm. And I'm giving it. So what happened to him there was he had to make a decision, right? He was under pressure. He was in a noisy Anfield, and he makes a decision. Now, can you imagine referees are mic'd up and they know that they're under a microscope now? The pressure that add to everything else. All of a sudden, there's not just the 60,000 in the stadium that are watching their every single move, and on TV you can see them, but all of a sudden you can hear them now. I mean, I don't know. I don't know whether it. I think it caused more hassle than it's worth. I'd just like to see the standard of refereeing go up, and then we won't have to be having these conversations.
But it won't,
Andy. Of course, it might not, Gav.
Like they're not. Tell me how it will. Tell me how it will, because if we allow these referees to continue to make these decisions, right, continue to have this amount of time frame in order to bring out a statement on a Monday morning, right, and still have the ability, right, where we're actually sitting here going, did he look at that? Did he not look at it? And when he looked at it, who made the decision? Was it the fella in the van or the fella on the pitch? Who made the decision? And that's why the standard will never get any better, Andy. Never.
Yeah, you can have right. Someone mentioned a while there is a reason why they're all English. You know, there's a reason why they can't bring in referees from other countries.
But they did bring the Aussie lad in, though.
Yeah, look, I don't know what the crack is. I don't know why. In this day and age, half the refs wouldn't, like, if half the players or most of the players are for other countries now. I don't know why the refs can't be. If you do that, it won't be buddy. You can bring in a proper ombudsman, and they can be held accountable, and the referees that are investigating aren't their mates, and they can hold someone accountable and fuck them down into the championship for a few weeks. But I don't know whether, given, armchair football fans more ammunition is going to make it any better. It's going to put them under further pressure, and it's going to be an even bigger shit show.
It's going to put them under pressure, Andy, to do their fucking job. That's all it's doing.
I don't think anyone wants to be recorded in their workplace.
But hold on a minute, Andy. Hold on a minute. Right? They are making decisions here, teamed with technology, right? Having discussions with people that are watching multiple screens, right? And at the end of it, right, we are still asking questions on a Monday morning as to why the decision was made. How did they come to this thing? Who made the fucking thing? And I'm saying, I feel like a fucking broken record. I'm saying this 18 months. Who was making the decisions? And you see, the standard will never go up when you don't have full transparency, right, as to how the decision is made. There's not, Andy. There's not.
There is because they are supposed to be regulated by a body of independent referees, but they're mates, so it's not working. Yeah. But if you split it up and you deregulate and you have referees from all over the place coming in, then that's going to break up the click.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you is, Andy, I can't see the evidence, right, as to how the standard of refereeing can improve working alongside VAR when you continue to see what you're seeing right now, up until yesterday, right, and nobody's held accountable because they're able to pass it on to someone. There's always that grey area as to who made the decision.
But you know, the logic to me at the moment seems to be that obviously a decision is made on the field, then whoever's sitting on VAR disagrees with that decision that was made on the field. He obviously has a word in the referee's ear, tells him he thinks he's maybe got that particular call wrong, advises him to go to the screen, and then probably 9 times out of 10, the referee actually backs down. That's the way it seems to be panning out at the moment, with the odd exception. I think there was one exception this weekend where a penalty was given. He was told to go and have a look at it, and then he actually upholds the original decision.
That's unusual.
Which is unusual. It goes against the trend, but that to me seems to be the way all of these sort of non-offside. In fact, I think for the Brighton one, the referee was asked to go and look at the screen to have a look at an offside, which was a bizarre one. I think he was actually asked to go and have a look to see if in his interpretation, the Brighton player made an attempt at the ball, made it big enough. I think we had a similar one a few years ago where we had a goal disallowed because Van Dijk makes an effort. I think it might have actually been against Everton, where Van Dijk makes an effort towards the ball that comes in. Don't think he ultimately gets anything on the ball, and we end up scoring from it, but it gets disallowed because Van Dijk had been in the area and been offside and showed the intent to try and win the ball. So I think that seems to be the logic at the moment. I think if you opened up the mic, the way things are right now, I just think it would descend into even more chaos, to be honest with you. I think we'd still be left scratching our heads. Yeah, we'd hear the dialogue, but the outcome would be the same. We'd still be seeing goals disallowed that, 95% of the population would think was a crazy decision to make. And even a lot of the fans who've benefited from it would probably openly admit they kind of got away with things. I don't think the logic that was reached on that would change it.
I think
Gav, can I just make a quick point?
Sorry, a few lads saying I look stressed out. I'm fucking sick of these referees and VAR, right?
Yeah.
And
I'm sick of the refs, Gav. But
I am. And Red Steve says, Gav, how do you see it improving without VAR? I never called for VAR to be gone. I haven't called for it. I'm sick and tired of how it's being used, right? I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of these people coming in having a massive input and influence on how games end up. Right, and where teams end up and what they win or what they lose, or do they stay up, do they go down, do they win a league, do they not, whatever it might be. And they just continue on week after week after week, and all you get is, we might have been wrong on that.
Yeah, it's happened twice this season, hasn't it? I think the second weekend this week they've said, the PGMOL will, they've come out and admitted mistakes and they were going to review this, that and the other. But it doesn't change, the points that are now in the league table as a result of those errors.
That's a good thing, and it's being painted as a bad thing. Like, admitting they're wrong adds to the kind of transparency again, and it means that improvements can be made. If you're not measuring these things, and you're not opening up and admitting to them, no change can be made. But Gav, just on the point of transparency, right? I'll give you an example of what dampened down the fire about VAR, and especially the offsides, was in the first season you used to see them measuring up the lines, right? And every week the conversation was like it was murder over offsides. And then you went and you watched the Champions League football games and you didn't see that. You just got to see the finished end product. And they showed someone was offside and nobody was talking about it. And everybody said they're it's much better in the Champions League. But in actual fact, they weren't being as transparent. But everyone thought it was better. Because the transparency was actually winding people up. It was winding people up who didn't want to understand how it was all being done. They were giving out shit about the horizontal plane, and they didn't know what they were talking about. And they took that away. And the first bit of whinging about it is about when someone's slightly offside. And again, it's down to people not trying to understand. So sometimes if you add in that little bit of extra information, it muddies the waters even more.
Yeah, completely. And I think I agree with you on the offside stuff. And the offside stuff, I've come to accept. That these lines will come up. They'll tell you if it's offside or onside. And if you take your red tinted glasses off or whatever team you support, you look at it and go, you know what, they're actually right. But the other stuff, Andy, no, I'm not having it. Not for a second. That you can't be more transparent, and we don't have to wait until Monday morning when they've divvied up a story between them and they throw it out there, and then at times the story just won't hold. So we just say we might have been wrong on that.
They did agree.
Come here, there's human error in everything, right? But that's what VAR is there for, right? Yeah. So if you look at something and you go, I'm not too sure on that. Yeah, I think you might be wrong. Let's go and have a look at it. Let's talk about it. And then people actually understand what the ref's seeing, what VAR is seeing, and how they come to the decision. My problem is we don't know how they come to the decision, and we don't know who's making it. And that's where they get away with it.
Do you know what it just reminds you there? Kevin O'Sullivan says, if you're ever in doubt, follow Dale on ESPN and you learn a lot. You just have to look at his timeline and you'll know how VAR offsides operate inside out. Just read his timeline and you know. And if you're ever worried, like before you go whinging about one, just go and read his timeline and then it'll calm you down because he knows it inside out. But what bugs me about it is like he's explaining how it all works, but he's getting the blame for the implementation of it. He's getting the blame for what's happening. But all he's doing is explaining it to you. There's no point in getting angry with the fella who's trying to educate you.
No, he's very good.
That's why you put someone like him on telly or they're miking up referees and all of a sudden they're giving you the information, but people don't fucking want to know. And they just go mad. They go rasher. And I think it's just going to be, too much of a distraction away from the product. I fucking sit down. I don't listen to the lead up anymore. I don't listen to halftime chit chat. I don't listen to full time. Maybe the interviews. I just want to watch the football. And if you're going to have a big drama on the pitch of people talking to each other, I don't know. I don't know where that's going to help.
I think your argument is fine if they were using their technology correctly. Like, there's decisions there where you just go, there's no way they can come to that decision.
No, they use the technology correctly, but they're just making incompetent decisions and inconsistent decisions.
So if they,
as you say,
if they get some consistency in what they're doing, and and the dog on the street can see that they've made the wrong decision. If they actually start making the right decision, and they how incompetent they are starts to reduce, you might turn around and go, you know what? No, they're making decisions and they're good. But right now, Andy, I'm sorry. If you're going to continue on like this, I'd like to fucking hear where you're coming up with this. That's the way I look at it. Do you know what I mean?
Come here. What was I going to say to there? The fouls leading up to goals. That is a tricky one. Like practically every time somebody loses the ball in midfield and there's a goal scored very quickly that they can review it back. I think the vast majority of goals come from someone losing possession and it goal is scored quite quickly. Very few goals are scored after 20 or 30 passes. So normally someone's kind of gave away cheap. They're on the ball, they're off balance, and the ball is won. So if they're going back to every single incident to review whether it was a foul or not. Like they have to have some sort of consistency. They have to kind of, because most of them are fouls if you see them. Like that was definitely there was only uproar over it because a goal got chalked off, but that was a foul. Come on, and Origi's back then was a foul. These are fouls. Jordan Henderson was fouled in the lead up to one of Fulham's goals. They are fouls, but people are so annoyed that a goal is scored and all of a sudden it's chalked off. But these are fouls, so maybe that's something they could be looking at. What is a foul in the middle of the park? Let's decide. Are they all fouls, or if somebody's off balance and they're out muscled, they've given the ball away cheap and just don't go back and chalk any of them off. People want consistency, and you just in any given weekend you could see one goal given with a foul leading up and another goal, the exact same challenge in midfield, and it isn't given. That's officials. That's not VAR.
No, it's not. It's not. But I still think the standard we look at now, I think trying to up that standard, I think is fucking nigh on impossible for what you have, and not. I wouldn't mind if they were following the letter all the time, and you're frustrated over it. You go, they're following the letter, and I'm just fucking frustrated. But they're not. They're jumping from fucking Billy to Jack every fucking week, and I think that's what it might be. But let's be back.
I get the frustration, Gav. I totally get it. I mean, I just don't want to see these referees getting away with, like, by binning VAR off altogether. I don't want to see referees continuing to get away with what they're getting away with. The standard, where it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time, but
I think the next move I've seen a few comments in chat around trying in other sports there being more consistency with the VAR crews being the same people. Now, obviously, you probably, just of the logistics of it, you're probably going to need, because you this weekend, for example, I think there were 6 3:00 kickoffs on the Saturday, so you're going to have probably at least 6 VAR sort of crowds, but essentially I think that might be the direction they might try and go. As you get more referees getting to the age where they're no longer going to be on the pitch, you might get them trying to assemble this VAR crew, maybe 6 VAR officials or whatever, and stick with it that way. And then obviously as the younger referees come through, because we've seen some fresh faces, haven't we, this season already, some refs that I've been unfamiliar with through watching Match of the Day. So I think that might be where they try, rather than open it up to transparency, they might try and plug the whole consistency argument by saying, okay, well, it's only going to be these 6 referees who are ever on VAR, and they won't be on the pitch one day and then in the VAR the next day.
You're either in the van or and that's it. Yeah. But a lot of people said it, and Shawnee said it as well. Shawnee was one of them saying VAR should be independent to the PGMOL. A lot of people in the chat agreed. Laura Duffy says, in America, the manager of VAR explains major decisions every week on the YouTube channel, and they use the original VAR audio feed. He will actually say if they didn't get it, did or didn't get it correct.
Oh yeah, the guy in New York, isn't it?
But listen, I might go out and watch a bit of that actually. Look, we're an hour and a half in. It's been a really good show, good chat. We've got through loads and loads and loads of stuff. Andy, anything else before we go?
No, someone just pointed out Dicko's being kicked out of a shed back in the house.
Yeah, he's gone for more stability.
Still there, but the Wi-Fi and the aliens, the combo, has brought me back into the house on a permanent basis.
And he's dressing up really nicely, isn't he? His shorts have been lovely.
It is a nice top.
I had my mid-year review today, so I threw a shirt on for it, you know what I mean?
Mid-year.
And
how did you get on?
Yeah, not too bad.
He's showing off his big American fridge as well, I notice.
Yeah, you're fuming because you're not showing off yours, I'd say.
And there's one big difference between above my American fridge and Ray's is mine is full.
You have an ice maker as well. That's the one thing I regret, not getting the ice maker, paying the extra £100 or whatever it was.
No, but you looks like you drank all the wine over the weekend.
He did. So he had his mid-year review. He was celebrating. He's having 4 bottles since he got off the phone there at 6 o'clock. Right.
Look, I'm going to Liverpool this weekend to restock up from Asda, so that it'll be full this time next week. It'll
Do
be
they
fun.
do for pound wine? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dicko has no shame about buying four
No, he
pound
doesn't.
bottles.
No.
Screw tops
No.
all the way, or a box of wine. Would you fit a
Yeah,
box of wine in them slots?
No.
Andy, you put fucking Buckfast into the mad decanters that drip into themselves.
No, I
Fucking
don't. I
mad
do
stuff.
that. I beg
You
your
do?
pardon.
What's
I'll
that thing
only
called
put
you have?
an aerator and a decanter.
An aerator. What's the one where it drips in?
Yeah, that's the aerator.
Yeah.
So that saves you having
What's
to
that
open
where
the
you
bottle.
19 crimes you get and you just lash
No, I
it
don't
in?
get 19 crimes. You're
Yes, you do.
confusing me with Big Joe Walsh. I wouldn't. That stuff wouldn't touch my lips.
If anyone ever wants any advice on wine, Big Joe Walsh is the man. He knows all the
Yeah.
vineyards and the vintages. So check him out on our bets. He's good on the golf as well. But listen, we better leg it. That has been. Oh, sorry. Before we go, Bobby's Wish to Walk. The link is in the description. He's very, very close. He's about 17, 18 grand away from his target. If he gets that, he'll be off to America for his treatment, and then post operation he'll be back here for more treatment and stuff like that. So if you want to donate, you can. The link is in the description, as I've said. You cannot give us super chats on this channel. You can't donate to this channel in any way. And we've turned all that off to make sure that if you want to give money, you give it to Bobby. So go and check that out. He's 7 years of age, and if he can get this ASAP, it'll be absolutely amazing. We were talking last night about the charity game that's on Saturday in Richmond Park, the home of St. Pat's. Shawnee was giving you the shout on that as well. All the details are on our show last night. It's on our Twitter as well, but we'll make sure tomorrow it'll go on across all our social media as well for that. It looks like a really good day with some Liverpool legends as well. Barry Devaney says 19 crimes is nice wine, to be fair, and he's just got sick a little bit in his mouth. That has been Winners and Losers. We will talk to you all again soon. Over and out.